Right, welcome you guys. How you doing? Had a good day so far? Awesome. All right, let's just see. Okay. I'll just read something. Yeah, that training, Nancy, it's a game changer. Um, yeah, I hope people take the time to get that book and devour it, internalize it. It's a game changer. Talking about leadership and personal development, or leadership and self-deception, sorry. Same thing, right? We recorded a Zoom last night and went through that. That's on the Mechanic to Millionaire YouTube channel now, and posted it in the Facebook groups as well. We did a little Zoom based on that book, and we'll use that as kind of a foundation for this, what we're doing here on this Zoom. And there's no way not to integrate it now that we know it. It'll forever be a part of my training, I think, in one way or another. Sorry about that. I debated as to put that as to an attachment. But then I decided, no, I'll do another one, and we'll make that one an attachment maybe down the road here. But for now, you can watch that one. It's recorded on YouTube, and it's just titled Leadership and Self-Deception. All right. So jumping into this, and Jojo, do you want to share anything about, let me make you a co-host. Last night, I know we had a lot of good feedback from last night, and that training is like President Carter said, there's no way you couldn't see the contrast in your own life now. And I did want to say one thing real quick, Jojo, before you add anything. It's not like, for those of you that have seen that Zoom or that were on last night, it's not like we're going to do it perfectly. Like, I didn't really make that point during the Zoom. Like, you're not going to take the left road perfectly at 100% every time. It's the knowing, and it's recognizing when you didn't take that turn in hindsight, where before you didn't even know. You didn't even know in hindsight that there was a turn that you could have taken that was different, that would have led to different results. So it's just a matter of being aware and recognizing and not beating ourselves up every time we take a right turn instead of a left turn. Just know that you're now aware of it. And it's like, again, like the song from the Eagles that I just played, take it to the limit one more time. I'm going to go for it one more time. Even though I fall down, I'm going to fall forward, right? Because I know now. So anything to add to that, Jojo?
Good morning. It was pretty crazy how many messages, like right at the end and over the course of the evening, that we got. Just, it was people going, that was just such a profound aha for everybody, that just a totally different shift in perspective of the way to look at it. And there's something too, if you watched it, or if you're going to go back and watch the video, that as you're reading the book, to remember that it's not just the dialogue that's going on between you and someone else. It's the dialogue you're having between you and you about the event. And so there was, I did see there was a little bit of some miscommunication thought processes of understanding how it was happening. So it was interesting, because I think it'll take us, and it'll help us be able to describe it even better as we go through. And I think as people read the book, it's going to shift as well. But those thought processes, it's pretty amazing when you because we're talking about, having a feeling about somebody else, but it's all the stuff that's going on in your brain as it's happening. It's not the actual verbal thoughts that are words that are coming out of your mouth. I mean, I guess it could be, but the majority of what's happening is what's going on inside yourself. And So it's all that internal dialogue you're having with your good guy and your bad guy inside your brain.
Yeah, the book and the Zoom was by no means to replace the book. It was to hopefully get people to read the book, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see, I put the book. Yeah, it's this book right here. So we've talked about it. If you've been following along, you've heard us talking about it. If you're new, then this is the book that we recommend. There's an audio. I really like the audio. I got both because there's some diagrams that are not in the audio, but you can also download them from the audio from a website that they give you. But I just wanted the book as well, so
Mm-hmm.
I can read some stuff and things that really stand out. But that's the book right there. By no means was the Zoom to replace this. You will get way more out of it as you listen to this.
And as a trick, David Wood taught me a long time ago, because reading, my brain goes in 1,000 different places. It could take me forever to read a book because I have to go back and read the same page 30 times. And listening to an audio, I do the same thing. But when I read the book and the audio together and I put my earbuds in, I reduce my thought trips by 90% probably, and I'm able to retain more. So just as a thought, if anybody struggles with that stuff, to do the audio and the book together is really, the retention goes up a ton.
Yep, good points. Okay.
All right.
So we're on week 3. If you're listening in on the recording and you happen to be new, or maybe you're on this Zoom this morning, we're going succinctly through. So I would always recommend going back to week number 1, watching the attachments that go along with week number 1, and they're on the YouTube channel, Mechanic to Millionaire. So it's easy to let you go back and also get the previous information as well. What I wanted, just as some quick thoughts here this morning, there's going to be some intense reading this morning. And again, like that book, it was just a matter of getting a hold of a book that Malcolm had recommended. And that book, profoundly changing my life. And it's through the reading. Leaders are readers. But they first start out as readers. Leaders are readers, but it was the reading that came first that made them a leader. So readers are leaders and leaders are readers. Usually you identify some things, you have some ahas that other people haven't even conceptualized yet. So they don't have the internal process, but some principle that was taught in the book that you just read. And so now you get to govern your life in a different way, a more empowered way from a different perspective. And somebody else that doesn't have that perspective, they're not going to be able to make as conscious a correct choice, a higher plane of existence choice where you experience life on a higher plane. And anytime we go higher, it's always better, right? More enjoyable. All of the good things that come into life that life has to offer. So we want to work on getting on that higher plane. And it's just a matter of being exposed to the principles. And so, the things that have changed my life have been books that I've read, because I've been able to internalize those principles, then make the decision, do I want to implement them? When I implement them in my behavior, then I start to get the results that I'm looking for. So 2 things that I just wanted to point out, how and why. As I was reading this book, sorry, I don't have that cough anymore. Somebody recommended I did some Himalayan pink sea salt, like a quarter of a tablespoon. It worked. I did it a couple times a day, and my throat is really dry right now. I don't have that cough anymore, but I'll cough a little bit just because my throat's dry. So the how and why, as I was reading the book, I had already made the decision on how I was going to create wealth. Isagenix was already in my life, not for very long, like maybe, I don't know, a month, 2, month and a half, something like that, before I went on that road trip with Lenny, maybe 2 months. Maybe it was a little bit longer. I don't know. It was right around, in the beginning. And I already knew how I was going to make the income that was going to make me wealthy, that the book's going to now teach me the science of how to utilize that vehicle that I've already decided on. It wasn't waffling back and forth. I had such a profound experience on the products, and then the few people that I had shared it with had a profound experience. That wasn't coincidence. I could make the correlation very quickly that the products are not under trial. The products are not, I used to say that all the time, right, Jojo? The products are not under trial. And so if they're not under trial today, they're not going to be under trial 6 months from now, even though my business may not be doing good. It's not the products that are under trial. It's me and how I'm articulating to people and following up and coaching and all that other skill set with being an entrepreneur, right? The products work. And I think I shared the story about, you know, the mentor telling me early on, it's something worked 30% of the time where people were completely satisfied. In business school, that was a grand slam. Well, this was a grand slam, but better than a grand slam. It was a grand slam in the World Series on the last game for the championship, because this was working every time somebody put it in their product. I mean, every time somebody put the product in their body. Now it's a matter of whether they self-sabotage themselves. That's not the product's fault if somebody's not getting the results because they're not implementing it the right way or long enough or whatever. Now there's going to be that 1%, you know, that maybe have some kind of medical condition that might prevent it. I'm not talking about that. 99% of the time when people put this product in their body and they do it right, it works in a way that dramatically improves their body. So the how I was going to make the money wasn't what I was looking for out of this book. I had already decided on that, and I wasn't going to change that. Why? Because I had already experienced some other things at that point in my life. I worked really hard. I did a lot of construction jobs, working in the ditches. It wasn't a matter of working hard. I worked hard in a corporate setting, right? Working for Honda and Toyota and these companies. And they weren't allowing me to make as much money as I was capable of making. They put a ceiling on how much I could make, no matter how much excellence I put into it in that environment. So there's 2 strikes. The third strike was I opened my own brick and mortar business. I opened an automobile shop, and it was very successful. But it was very, in some sense, it was fulfilling. But in another bigger sense of the pie, it was not fulfilling. That business owned me. I lost more of my life and what I wanted to accomplish with my life, opening up my own brick and mortar. That was very successful. That shop was highly successful. And I walked away from it because there was an unfulfillment in the other dynamics of my life that I couldn't fulfill through that process. So 3 strikes, you're out, right? So I guess when it's like Malcolm says, network marketing, oh, that's when there's no other options left. Like before you die, before you're just gonna die, maybe I'll try network marketing, right? Some people look at it that way. When really, to come to find out, it wasn't my last, ditch effort. It should have been my first, because it's fulfilled my life in every way, way beyond what I thought life could be in the way of fulfillment. So the how, I'd already figured out what the how was. Now the why, what was going to drive me to do? Well, I already had my why. My why was already sown within my soul. I was trying to accomplish my why as a mechanic, as a ditch digger, as a entrepreneur owning my own shop. My why was already trying to accomplish those things in life of self-actualization in these different areas that I knew the possibilities to self-actualize. And I didn't have the mantra back then. I didn't have the affirmation, I'm so happy and grateful I have the unrestricted free use of time, money, and resources. I can do what I want, when I want, for as long as I want. I didn't have that affirmation, but in a sense, I kind of did. I was working towards the American dream, right? That's really summing up the American dream, is be able to do what you want, when you want, for as long as you want, right? Isn't that the American dream? And so being able to become more clear on that as I accomplished those things with how I was accomplishing it with Isagenix, okay? So Tony Robbins says getting clear on why is the biggest thing. It's one of the biggest things. And then I would say also, committing to something and then not waffling about it. Decide. And then Lenny taught this a lot. When I first got into Isagenix, he taught it a lot. You decide. He said, when you talk about pesticides, suicide, homicide, you're killing off, any other choices. It's death. Death to any other choices. Decide. Pesticides is death, right? Suicide is death. Homicide is death. So decide is killing off any other options until what I had set out to do is accomplished. And I think was exact slogan that talked about the marriage thing on, your business is like a marriage. And if you're going on other websites and flirting and looking for ways to cheat on your spouse, don't be so upset when your marriage goes south. When somebody else, and I'm paraphrasing very quickly here. I mean, it was a pretty profound statement. Maybe
it's posted on my Facebook from about a week ago. If anybody, I guess I can copy and paste it over if you want.
Yeah. So the same thing with our business. Your business is a jealous mistress, right? Or Mr. So, giving it the focus and the attention and deciding, killing off any other options. And that means distractions as well. So that's how I treated it. In the beginning, especially. The beginning is the most important to figure out your why and killing off and deciding, right? Making that commitment. So I want to read a couple things. Let's read the rest of this chapter on Science of Getting Rich. And then I want to read from this book right here, The Laws of Success, some things that really, some of them were already ingrained in me. And then he added some things on a deeper level and expanded it with the law of abundance. So finishing where we left off, I'll read the last two sentences of where we left off in the first chapter, whatever in the Science of Getting Rich. Whatever he can say, no man can be really happy or satisfied unless his body is living fully in every function and unless the same is true of his mind and his soul. Wherever there is unexpressed possibility or function not performed, there is unsatisfied desire. Desire is possibility seeking expression or function seeking performance. You cannot turn that off. You can suppress it, you can fight it, but you cannot turn off that desire that comes up within you. That's divine. I shared the story many times about Mary Morrissey and her little granddaughter that she was picking up for the week and going to babysit her and take her out, and grandma and granddaughter are going to have fun. The little granddaughter gets in the car, and Mary had just bought a new car with a DVD player in it. And the child loved the DVD player. What child doesn't love a DVD player in the car, right? Watching their favorite movies as they're driving down the street. So then after 3 days, though, a new desire had welled up within the child. And Mary, being conscious enough to recognize it and not let it go in one ear and out the other, was able to pass it on to us. She said, that child got in my car on day 3 and said, Grandma, I wish this car baked cookies and cakes. She had already had this, what Heather was talking about, content, be content. Here's a little child, probably 8, 7 years old, had this desire well up within them. She wasn't content. She was satisfied with the DVD player. She was grateful for it, but she wasn't satisfied. That desire, that divine desire that wells up that you cannot turn off, it's the universe seeking fuller expression, was seeking it through the child. And the child, expressed it. She wanted cookies and cakes. She wanted the glove box, I guess, to become an oven now, and make the cookies and cakes. That was desire welling up within her. And there was another story that we'll get to eventually in the book where he talks about the kid banging the piano. And he says, I can hear it in me. I just can't get my fingers to move right to get what's in me out into the piano in the way of the music that I hear inside me, right? So that desire, you can suppress it, you can ignore it, you can fight it, you can come up with justifications as to why you're not fulfilling it, but you can't turn it off. So that's what he's saying here. If you have an unexpressed possibility, function not performed, that's an unsatisfied desire. And really, in most cases, it's going to take money for you to fulfill that desire. Could she have had a vehicle that made cookies and cakes? Yeah, an RV would do that, but an RV would cost a lot more, right? If she really wanted to fulfill that particular desire. So going on now, man cannot live fully in body without good food, comfortable clothing and warm shelter. Now that's the bottom of the pyramid. On the self-actualization, that's survival mode. Just being able to supply the body with clothing, not comfortable clothing, but clothing, food, and shelter, right? And how many people exist on that bottom part of the self-actualization? The lowest levels, the lowest two levels, survival mode, making it through each day. So, but that's not what he's talking about here. And without freedom from excessive toil, that's a huge one. And without freedom from excessive toil, thank you, network marketing and passive residual income. Thank you, God, for inspiring people with a desire to bring that into manifestation. And how many people tried to fight that? They were taken to court to try to suppress that desire for us to have greater freedom and still have, the wealth. Rest and recreation are also necessary to his physical life. Of course they are. Rest and recreation. He cannot live fully in mind without books and time to study them, without opportunity for travel and observation, or without intellectual companionship. So some people who have jobs right now, they're having to get up at 4:30 in the morning in order to get in their personal development. I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to deliver newspapers, right? And then working a full day. Is that balanced for that much toil and that much work, which is squeezing out the time for me to self-develop, to read, to go on, recreation and travel? It's out of balance. And how many people have 2 or 3 jobs and are getting up at 4:30 in the morning just so they can get to their job on time? It's out of balance. So he cannot live fully in mind without books and time to study them, without opportunity for travel and observation, or without intellectual companionship. To live fully in mind, he must have intellectual recreations and must surround himself with all the objects of art and beauty he is capable of using and appreciating. Sometimes we might look at that as excess, somebody driving a Ferrari or somebody having a Da Vinci or some famous painter that they paid millions of dollars for the art. Well, they're capable of enjoying that art. Maybe they really do enjoy that art. Maybe there's something that they get from that particular hanging on the wall that truly inspires them in a way that nothing else really does when it comes to that particular painting. Who are we to judge that they spent $1 million on it? They're living the law of abundance, and they happen to have the abundance to be able to afford that and therefore enjoy all that they're capable of enjoying, right? To live fully in soul, man must have love, and love is denied expression by poverty. To live fully in soul, man must have love, and love is denied expression by poverty. Some people's paradigms might try to argue that. He's saying here, you need money in order to express love more fully. I know there's a lot of sayings out there and a lot of phrases that would say the exact opposite and try to get you to buy into, you can't buy love, those types of phrases. Now, don't go off the deep end on the other. There's a balance. You can go too extreme one side and you can go, too extreme the other side. On that plane, just realize this. This is what your paradigm is dealing with. This is what society's dealing with, because we're talking about individual paradigms. On the positive side, there's an infinite way of exercising a principle. And on the negative side, there's an infinite way of exercising that principle. This would be more negative results, which would lead to depression, anxiety, lack, all of those things. This would be positive, where it's abundance, it's joy, okay? Over here, depression. So we're all on this principle line in so many different areas of principles. This book right here says he gives 50 different principles. of success, 50 different principles. And they're all different than the other. And he said, who knows how many principles there are? We just barely discovered the principle of flight, back through the Wright brothers. The world's been around for thousands of years. We just barely discovered the principle of flight. Maybe the Arbinger group just barely discovered the principle of self-deception, self-betrayal. So on this scale here, when I say your love can be more full and a greater experience as you go up towards the positive end, well, maybe you're down here, maybe I'm down here with expressing love. But there's some areas of my life where that expression is here. But there's some expressions of love where it's down here. Maybe I have a great relationship in my respect and my honor for people and the way I treat other people and I put them before myself. But there's some lack that I have in being able to give gifts to them. To be able to, so he says right here, a man's highest happiness is found in the bestowal of benefits on those he loves. Love finds its most natural and spontaneous expression in giving. So he's making the argument here now. So what you get to do is decide, here's the event on where you're at on this scale. I don't judge where anybody's at. Everybody's in different places, right? All along here. So here's the event. And from this event, you get to decide with this particular principle of wealth and love. He's going to argue the case for wealth will increase your ability to go up the love principle. You get to decide whether you're going to go here, which is no change. You're just going to keep going with how you've been doing it. You're going to buy into, whatever you made as a belief here in your head. A false belief, because it's not a false belief. It's just lack of understanding the principle. That's huge. This was a huge concept for me, that it's not, you don't have a lack of love in you. You just have a lack of understanding the entire principle of love. And the ultimate is understanding it in the way that God does. Is everything at God's disposal? Does he have the unrestricted use of things? Yes or no? Does he have the unrestricted use of things? And I'm talking about God here as the supreme example. If you say yes, then this could not be true. If you don't have the if your paradigm is saying no, the danger, your RAS system is saying danger, is trying to warn you that you're going down a road you haven't gone before. You're going down a road that you don't believe is true. You got to ask yourself, does God have the unrestricted use of things? And I would argue yes. I don't even have to argue. It's self-evident based on your definition of who God is. So maybe that's another issue. So if that's the case, then you would have to start to agree with something that you haven't agreed with if you go down the left road, which then is going to produce a different perspective. All you're doing is you're not leaving the love line. You're not leaving the principle of love. You just have a different perspective right here than you did right here. And that perspective is more accurate with the principle of love. We're not taking the true principles of love that you've already incorporated here. We're adding to them. And we will forever be adding to love during this lifetime, because you're not going to get to the understanding and knowledge and perspective that God has, not in this lifetime. But the more you can move up, the more you're going to start enjoying things on a higher plane of existence. That is what makes God God. He enjoys the highest plane of existence. Great exemplar, right? And we have the mental faculties to do the same thing. It won't be accomplished in this life, but you don't end at the end of this life when your body leaves its spirit. Okay, so Does that make sense? Is that profound? Is that helping? So he's arguing the case to try to move you up. And if you're denying it and you're a full glass and you're not going to allow it in, then you're going to stay over here where there's no change. There's no change in your actions. Therefore, there's going to be no change in your results. So why are you on the Zoom? Get off. No, I'm just kidding. Don't get off. Don't get off. We're not going to kick you off the island. Okay? So the man who has nothing to give cannot fill his place as a husband or father. And he's not going to like frame this up for both men and women. Man is mankind. That's all of us included, right? So just know that we're not being chauvinistic here or whatever the word might be. The man who has nothing to give cannot, because that's a paradigm as well. And unfortunately, it's a paradigm that, has been framed up that way to where people can suppress themselves based on their gender. Nobody's suppressed based on any gender, any race, any ethnicity. So the man who has nothing to give cannot fill his place as a husband or a father, as a citizen or as a man. It is in the use of material things that a man finds full life for his body, develops his mind, and unfolds his soul. It is therefore of supreme importance to him that he should be rich. It is perfectly right that you should desire to be rich. If you are a normal man or woman, you cannot help doing so. So here's your event. Here's where you get to decide. Now, maybe this is just a little bit of a preview. You're getting a peek into something that you haven't really ever thought about before. It doesn't mean you're going to totally incorporate it and move up this scale to where you're now going to start seeing the different results because you change your behavior. It's going to be a work in progress. It's the beginning of taking 100% responsibility, like Jojo said on the Zoom last night. Once you take that and you're conscious and aware of that, now you can start to feed the right wolf, right? There's two wolves inside of us. Which one wins? The one you feed. All right, so it is perfectly right that you should give your best attention to the science of getting rich, for it is the noblest and most necessary of all studies. If you neglect this study, you are derelict in your duty to yourself, to God, and humanity. For you can render to God and humanity no greater service than to make the most of yourself. Yes or no? Yes or yes, Tony Robbins would say. Do you want to make the most of yourself? Okay, can you do that with poverty? Can you do that living a life of mediocrity? Can you do that as a middle class? You can do it better than being in poverty, but is there still some unfinished business, some unfulfilled desires? Yes or no? You're going to have a battle right now going on inside of you. And like Heather, just using Heather as an example, which she brought up a great point that a lot of people had some ahas about. But if you go right to that scripture and you misinterpret it, which wolf are you feeding now? Wallace Wattles is giving you the opportunity to look at something differently. So he's arguing the case. That's the end of chapter 1. Your right to be rich. So let me read from this book, The Science of Getting Rich. And like I said, there's going to be some intense reading, but this is going to be helpful because it's going to help you to understand a principle and give you a different perspective. So it's called the Law of Abundance. Suppose you had a son whom you loved very much, and that you had surrounded him with every opportunity and all good things. He could have all the education he wished. The medical knowledge is available that, if followed, would give him a strong body and a clear mind. He could develop personality, courage, industry, and leadership to his heart's content. All the best things would be available to him in the greatest abundance. Remember, that's the father providing this kind of environment for his son. Can you conceive of placing any limit on him as long as this abundance was in his interest? But after all of this opportunity, suppose your son showed himself to be unworthy, unkept, without education, without personality, without vision or understanding, half-starved physically, mentally, and spiritually. How would you feel as a parent who is providing that environment for your child, and this is what they were making of themselves? Isn't that just about our situation? Think of the lavish abundance with which creation surrounds us. Now we're going to go against what I would say. I'm going to just lump it into media, all of the different modalities of media to try and get a message across, how to promote something, how to give an agenda of the lack that there is in the world. Okay? So we're going to take that head on right now. So isn't that just about our situation? Think of the lavish abundance with which creation surrounds us. Everything we could possibly wish for has been placed within our easy reach. It was certainly intended that everyone who wished it should have an abundance. There is enough and to spare. There is sufficient electricity in the water of a creek to furnish the power of unlimited. I'm going to frame it up in a different way than he does, in an unlimited ways. There is almost enough atomic energy in the substance we could hold in one hand to run the world. If every person produced to his utmost and we did away with strikes, monopolies, crime, and waste, and I'm going to say agendas, everyone could have his needs supplied many times over. Think of the lavishness of our natural resources: land, water, air, iron, coal deposits, forest, and oil. Think also of the resources in our own personality that lie buried and mostly unused. Nature gives us everything in abundance and expects us to manifest that abundance in our lives. The Creator did not intend for us to be scrubs, and certainly that is not the example that He set for us. Oh, listen to this. This is profound. You got to internalize this and really think about it and try and get the image. Only 1/1,000,000th part of the sun's rays reach the planets that maintain life. The rest of its beams die in cold, empty space with nothing to reflect back heat and light. Think of the order, the efficiency, the regularity and dependability of the workings of the universe. Try to contemplate the efficiency and attitude of the mind that could produce such order and abundance. Do you suppose that that mind that brought into being worlds without numbers and all of the wealth of creation intends us, His children, to be scrawny, uneducated, unnerved, deprived of a few things necessary to our happiness, or that He intends us to live in want, sickness, fear, ignorance, insecurity? 1/1,000,000th of the sun's rays hit our planet to maintain the life that we have on this planet. The rest are wasted in empty space, reflecting nothing back. 1/1,000,000th of the sun's rays, the rest is wasted. It's gone, not even producing any progress. 1/1,000,000th of the sun's rays. Jesus said, "And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over." There are no signs, any limitations mentioned here. Think how lavishly. So here we go. We're going to use nature as our observation, as part of this continued argument to move us up this scale. Think how lavishly nature rewards us for the things we do in a material way. If we plant 1 bushel of potato seed in the ground, we can get back 60 bushels of potatoes in return. A single potato carried to England by Sir Walter Raleigh in the 16th century multiplied itself in food for millions. A single tomato seed can multiply itself 1,000,000 times in 1 year. 10 forests can come out of 1 acorn. Plant a pound of onion seeds and we may reap 10 tons of onions. 1 twig from an apple tree planted in the ground may become a great tree, producing foliage and blossoms and fragrance and fruit, not just 1 year, but for many years, multiplied many, many times. The 2 eggs that we intend to eat for breakfast tomorrow morning could be hatched into a pair of fowls and multiplied to cover the earth with poultry. Is it likely we would be rewarded less in other areas of life? A little investment in character pays us back 1,000,000-fold. A little movement forward incrementally in our understanding of love, in our understanding of wealth, in our understanding of contribution and impact. Just a little bit of understanding could return us a millionfold. In my case, $10 million, dollars-wise, in understanding how to apply principles better with my Isagenix business. It's returned $10 million. That's just for me. What about the company? The company got the vast majority of that. And what has our company done? Now they've created a legacy group where 100% of the donations go towards charity. I didn't even get 10% of what was produced for Isagenix, 6%. Look at the lavishness that has been provided because of that. That investment in my personality and character and understanding principles that this book taught me and other books. I was, again, in Bob Proctor and Marianne Morrissey talking about working with the law, because we're working with laws here, our understanding of laws. In all thy getting, get understanding. Well, get the right understanding with the right principle and apply it to how you want to impact your life and other people's, right? So in that book, they were elaborating on it, just like we're doing here with the Science of Getting Rich. And Mary Morrissey said there's a phrase out there that you could scoop as much as you want from abundance, and there's still an infinite amount left. You can scoop as much as you want from the infinite. You can go out and take as many of the sun's rays as you want today. There isn't anybody that had a monopoly on the sun's rays on the beach at Huntington Beach, California, right, Dave? Dave might be on this Zoom. There isn't anybody that had a monopoly on the abundance of the sun's rays on the beach in Huntington, California. You know how many thousands of people there are on the beach? I grew up at Huntington Beach. And now let's take the whole world. There is nobody that's got a monopoly on the rays of the sun. And only 1 millionth part of the sun's rays are hitting us. There is an infinite supply of everything. Watch the movie The Secret. It's a lie that there's not enough room for everybody on this planet. It's a lie that there's not enough mineral supplies. It's a lie that there's not enough money to go around. It's a lie that there's not enough opportunity equally for everybody. It all comes from the infinite, which is an invisible supply that then manifests itself into the visible. We will never run out of oxygen, regardless of what the agendas and the media is saying out there. We will never run out of the sun. We will never run out of water. It's a lie, you guys. That's down here. It's a lack of understanding of who's in control. It's not an accidental universe. But if your understanding of who God is and how he operates was way down here, then yeah, you would start to say, we have to do something about this to fix the problem. And then you would start governing your life based on that philosophy, which is erroneous. You guys get that? Every pound of energy, so again, we can take we could scoop up. We could attract to us as much as we're willing to receive. And then you learn more, and so now you're able to receive even more. You still haven't even put a dent into anything. There's still an infinite supply left over when you scooped up as much as you want. That's the argument that Sills is making here. That's the argument that Wallace Wattles is making. That's the argument that Holliwell was making in working with the law. And the only person that would disagree with that is the person who has the lack of understanding. It's ignorance. And we see ignorance in the problems that it causes in our world. Every pound of energy we put into education for the development and initiative, resourcefulness, courage, industry, and personality, we get back multiplied manyfold. For every manifestation of faith as a grain of mustard seed, we are told we can move mountains. Every determination that we put into life comes back to us fantastically multiplied. It comes back to us in that way as long as we don't betray ourselves. If we don't self-betray, you'll continue to go from one magnificent win to the next. I'm not a billionaire yet, so do I have some room for improvement in my understanding of these principles and how I'm governing myself? Absolutely. I don't facilitate the principles in Isagenix like others do. There are people in the company that are making $2 million a year. Did they take anything away from me? Nope. Principally based, they didn't take anything away from me. Some people might think they did. Wow, they're getting all the people that are going to eat Isagenix. They're getting all the people. I've heard people say that before. Out of jealousy of somebody else's success. They're operating down here. They're governing themselves down here. Does that affect them? Yeah, it totally affects them, because the event is going to give them an opportunity to either go down this road or go down this road. When you self-betray, let's say they're going down this road right here. You can't get this when you're going down the wrong road that leads to that. This road does not lead to that. This road, a change in perception, understanding, can change behavior. That's what leads to this road. So simple. Now we could agree with that and still take the wrong road, because you have habits. Habits can cause you to go down this road continually. Patterns, emotions, the expectation that you have of others to have on you, your expectations of how other people feel about you. When you start moving up this road, they don't agree with you. Your emotions kick in because your expectation is you want to please them, or you need their permission to succeed. And so your emotions could kick in and you could continue to go down the wrong road. How do we overcome that? We get clear on how and why. That can override this. And then we frame that up in a way that we remember with the 3x5 card. We get our 3x5 card out. I did my 3x5s this morning on my phone with my app, and I connected with it. I added a little bit different thoughts to it. Same why, same how, same objective. But I used my 3x5 to overcome the patterns I have here with where I'm currently at. And you should be able to frame up a 3x5 a little more effectively if you've bought into what we've covered so far with what Wallace Wattles is teaching us about wealth. You get that? That's the goal here. Okay, so that's the objective here with this, is you should be able to reframe your belief on a 3x5 card, index card, more effectively now. Because on a scale of 1 to 10, if you were at a 3 on wealth, hopefully you're moving forward, creeping. Even if you move to a 3.5, that's still moving forward. Maybe you move to a 7. That right there, your belief level on your right to be rich is going to frame up a 3x5 card differently than when you were at a 3. That's the objective of this Zoom, is to get you to start to frame up a new so what are we framing up? A new concept of self. Not of other people. You're framing up a new concept of yourself. More effectively. So if we're doing it on a plane, and this is going up in the principles, if you're living life here, you're getting the results of living life right here. If you move up to this plane, you're now moved forward on your understanding. So this plane right here would be this understanding. This plane right here would be this understanding. Do you notice how people with this understanding don't hang out with people of this understanding? Birds of a feather flock together. They can't relate. There's no harmony. There's dissonance. There are people who will not call and complain to me about their Isagenix business. Why? Because they're experiencing life on this plane. They find somebody else to collude with what they're complaining about. I won't complain about things. I'll address things and give the solution and look for the solution if I don't know it and talk about the solution. And typically the solution is not what they're making outside of themselves, the company, the product, other people. That's this understanding. I don't go there. And if they want to stay there, they won't talk to me. They won't call me. And there are literally people that won't call me that I know that are complaining about the company, about the products, about the comp plan, about other people. And they find other people to collude with. And there might be somebody who's right here that these people drag them back down to their level. And you start to see their business stall and even go backwards. This is so profound, you guys. They were on the right track, but their old paradigm where they were here was more mature and more deeply rooted than it was here. They had only spent months developing this new level, and they were getting the results. They went from here to here. But what happened is somebody colluded with them and they dragged them back. That's like crabs in the bucket. If you're in a bucket with crabs and you're the only crab in the bucket, you will get out if you're the only crab. But if there's more than one crab, you won't get out because every time you start to go up, they pull you back down. 2 or more crabs in a bucket, no crab escapes. Now, you have to be proactive in doing this. This is important right here. You can't passively do this. You can't passively move up. You listen, you get on the Zoom, you agree, but then you're not proactively doing anything. In order to move forward, you have to be proactive in your actions. I have to be proactive with my new level of the concept of myself. I may have framed it up on a 3x5 card, but then that 3x5 card collects dust. I'm not being proactive. I will not move up in my results. This is where it takes the time, energy, and effort. It's a 2%er action. 98% wouldn't do it. 95% would rather die than do it. 3% think they're doing it. 2% are doing it. It's a 2%er action where you're proactively moving forward. So a particular person was proactively moving forward right here, but the crab pulled them back into their comfort level, their habits, their patterns, and they're not being proactive anymore because it takes an extra effort. Proactive, it takes climbing the mountain. And I want to bring up something that came up to me yesterday. When you decided right here to climb the mountain didn't change. The hard in the mountain is already set. The hard in the mountain never changes. It's where you're at in that moment in time that's going to determine to you what got hard. The hard never changed. The mountain is the same. You ever go on a hike? And when you get started, and there's different parts in that climb on the mountain that aren't hard, but then all of a sudden you hit a hard part. It was there when you decided down here. That hard was already existed right there. It didn't change. You just got to a point in the journey where it got harder. But the hard was always there. It already existed with your objective, your goal. The hard is, we could mark the different places of the hard where it gets really hard. Sometimes when you reach that hard in the journey that you decided, I'm going to take that hard on, but you didn't know what that hard was like until you got there. Some people will go back and not follow anymore. Jesus said that. Some people went their way and didn't follow anymore. The hard in their journey got to a point where they're like, I'll settle for mediocrity. I tried that. I'm not wired that way. I won't settle for mediocrity. Doesn't mean I'm going to have some words right here at this hard, but I'm going to work through it and I'm going to get to the next hard, overcome it, and get to the goal. Do you guys see the process that's going on here? And how could you accomplish that? How could you move past all of that unless you were moving up this scale right here? It would be impossible. There would be absolutely no way for you to overcome this journey and reach the goal without you moving forward in your understanding of principles. It'd be impossible. Couldn't be done. So what comes first? The understanding. Then there's some other dynamics in it as well. What vehicle? Have you decided how you're going to do it? Have you decided that yet? Have you decided why? Because you're going to reach this hard right here in the journey. Wallace Wattles is going to arm you with some ammunition to set the goal and say, yep, I'm going for it. And in the process, I'm going to become wealthy. He's giving you the ammunition and the principles to start the journey and decide. But there's some other dynamics. Why? How? What about the skills that you need? There's skills that you need on this journey. Those play into it as well. But I'm going to tell you that the fastest route, we haven't reached from A to B. The fastest route is all mental. And we're going to learn some principles about your mental faculties that will help you every time to ascend this journey, because you're capable of doing it. We may never be capable of explaining the compensation plan like Kathy Coover or Lynn Hagnorn, but we can still reach our objectives without developing that skill. That's through the law of attraction. We're going to learn some things that you can absolutely do, and it's all going to be around these 3x5 cards. You master that, you'll master every goal. Your skills, you'll develop them where they're necessary to develop. You can't stop yourself from developing them if you do this. Because Tiger Woods did this, because Michael Jordan did that, they were able to develop the skills necessary. But it was this that they were doing right here, all mental. And every single one of us are capable of doing this. But you've got to understand the principles to doing that and how to apply them. And that's science. That's why he calls it the science of getting rich. Understanding that is like math and implementing it. All right. So we got through chapter 1. Wow. Good timing, right towards the top. Anybody have any comments? I'm going to put this to where you can unmute yourself.
And this
I have
That's going to allow you to unmute yourself. If anybody has any comments.
Dave, this is Cindy. I have a quick comment. When I spent a 3-day conference and half of the time was on vision boards and goal setting. One thing that I love that I learned is to write out the obstacles so that when they come up, we aren't discouraged or frustrated. We're like, oh yeah, of course that's going to happen. You know, so that I thought was a really important part about moving towards your goal.
Yep, being aware. Name it to tame it. Now, some people want to name it to talk about it. They want to talk about it all day long. The more you talk about it, the deeper the hole gets when you talk about your problems. That's not what Cindy's saying. Don't hire psychologists and start talking about all of your problems. No, let me take that back. I'm going to take that back. Don't talk about your problems. That we're not talking about the obstacles to identify them and then to grow them and expand them. We're recognizing them so that we'll know how to address them properly through some other principles that you're going to learn if you haven't learned them already. How to frame that up. Okay, anybody else?
Can you talk about the flashcards program or the flashcards app? Because I know there's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, I use Flashcards Go. It's an Apple app. There's something similar. I know that Cindy Talley had found something similar for her Android. But what it is, it's a 3x5 card. If you watch the how to frame up your vision board correctly on the back end of foreverpack.com, it basically is taking what I can do on a physical card and paste pictures on the back, and it's allowing me to do it digitally. So it's digital 3x5 cards. And maybe we'll have a training about that because it's so powerful. I didn't think I'd ever use a digital 3x5. I love it more than I love the 3x5 physical cards. But both are the same. It's like BV and PV. They mean the same thing. BV, business volume, and personal volume mean the same thing. Digital cards, physical cards, same thing. It's what you prefer and what you can utilize. Maybe we'll do that as an attachment and apply that into a recording so that you can see how to do the digital one. And sorry, I'm going to have to do that with an iPhone. You'll just have to figure out how to do that with your Android and the apps that are out there.
I found one called flashcards. It's like a kind of a yellowy orange symbol with an F in the middle of it that I use for Android. And you can add pictures and change colors and do all kinds of things. So I like that one.
I think it's essential that we show people how to do that. I've already shown you how to do it on a 3x5 card, okay? So that's recorded in my YouTube channel, but it's also on the back end of foreverpack.com. How to build out your vision board correctly, I think is what it's called. The back end of ForeverPack, and there's a new login for that. The username is ForeverPack, and then the password is one team, like it's always been. There's a username and password to overcome the challenges we've been having with that login. Okay, anybody else have anything?
You know, the really cool thing about doing it electronically is you've always got your phone with you. So, you know, if, I don't know, if I'm sitting on the toilet, I've always got my phone. You know,
the phone is like an appendage of the human body. We always know where it's at.
It's crazy, you know. And the really neat thing I like, I use Keynote, which is the PowerPoint for iOS, and you can change the pictures, you know. So what happens is I've changed my you know, I have an affirmation about attracting people, and of course that picture always changes, right? And so I've updated that probably 30 times because there's, you know, what happens is
so
there are more and more people coming in.
Yeah, we're losing you. So absolutely, they got to be evolving. You got to like get the feeling every morning. And so what got you the feeling yesterday may not get you the feeling 3 days from now. And so what I do is I add things to my 3x5 cards electronically. And there's an app that I use. Malcolm uses Keynote. I use an app called Over. So right on my phone, I can make a collage of pictures and then upload the one picture onto my 3x5 card app, because you can't put more than one picture in that 3x5 card app. It'll let you upload any picture. So I had to figure out how to make a collage of pictures, and I wanted it on my phone so I could have it anywhere I go. And I use Over all the time to make those collages. I did it yesterday with something on my 3x5 card, because that's so critical that you're able to do that and connect with your cards every day. And people think that I know a lot about technology. No, I don't. I know what I need to know to accomplish what I want to accomplish. And you guys could be that's called ingenuity. That's called creativity. That's called, you know, there's another word for that. It's escaping my mind right now. But you can do it. Don't just give up because you can't figure it out right in that moment. Give yourself some time to evolve to figure it out. Make some mistakes, you know. Turn down some wrong roads in trying to figure out how to accomplish what it is I'm talking about or what you're thinking of. That's ingenuity. You've got to have that in this, and you have the mental faculties to do it. You were born with it. Don't tell yourself you can't do it. That's betrayal.
That's called gumption.
Gumption,
it's an old Scottish word.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can do this, right?
You all have it, and if you're not, if you're saying you don't, you betrayed yourself. You made the decision to go down the right side and stop taking the action. Could be lazy, could be frustration, it could be lack of the principal patience, intestinal fortitude, right? You have it, just stop betraying yourself and go down the other road. Watch the results that start to play out as you do that. They're going to change. So, and I'm not speaking at you, I just get passionate about it. Like excuses are, I don't like excuses. Excuses are self-betrayal. And I love that I can say that now because I know what self-betrayal is. I have the definition. All right, anybody else? All right, you guys, awesome. All right, let's rock this day. We're starting a new week. It's a new opportunity, and take the information. We'll have this recorded. It'll be listed up as week 3, and re-listen to it. I read a lot. Science of Getting Rich. You know, you can go back and find out which books I read to read what I read, and you can listen to them again. You can find those and internalize them on a deeper, more profound level. All right, you guys, have a great day. See you next week.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.